"Your mom is going to ruin our Christmas." That was the first thing I heard before being shoved toward the door, hard enough that I nearly lost my balance. It was my daughter-in-law screaming it at my son about me. 10 o'clock on Christmas Eve, and instead of sitting near the fireplace with Coco like everyone else, I was being kicked out of their house, my own family's home, as if I were some intruder. Emily's eyes were blazing. "Get out, Martha. You always do this. You ruin everything." Behind her, the tree glittered, music played, guests laughed. The perfect picture of Christmas, except for the 70-year-old mother trembling outside the door. I glanced at my son, hoping, praying he would stand up, say something, defend me. But he stared at the floor, frozen, ashamed, or maybe complicit? Neither option hurt less. "Please," I whispered, voice cracking, "it's cold. At least let me get my things." But before I could finish, the door was already slamming, sealing me out among the apartment's hallway shadows. All that warmth inside, the family I raised, the son I sacrificed everything for, and I was left staring at a piece of painted wood. The temperature outside had dropped, but that wasn't what chilled me. It was the realization. I was not wanted. And yet, if Emily thought this humiliation would be the last chapter tonight, she had no idea what tomorrow would bring and how profoundly it would change them. But to understand why this moment mattered, the night I was thrown out like garbage, you need to know how we got here.
My name is Martha. I am 70 years old. And just 6 months ago, my life looked completely different. My husband, Harold, died unexpectedly in June. We spent 41 years together. When he took his last breath at the hospital, I lost my partner, my protector, my friend, and the only person who truly defended me. After that, my world shrank to one person, my son, Daniel. Daniel was the child I carried through sleepless nights, colic, broken bones, heartbreaks, missed curfews, and expensive college dreams. When Harold died, Daniel promised, "Mom, I'll take care of you." He meant it then, or at least I believed he did. But promises are fragile things in the hands of other women, especially women who see mothers as competition rather than family. Emily looked sweet the first time I met her. Polite smile, soft voice, warm handshake. But underneath that polite gesture was something unsettling, something that only mothers notice. A possessiveness, a hunger for control, as if marriage gave her ownership over Daniel rather than partnership. The changes started subtly. Less frequent visits, shorter calls, sudden excuses. "Mom, we're busy tonight. Emily doesn't feel well. We'll see you next weekend." But weekends came and went. Birthdays were rushed. Holidays became awkward. And tonight, Christmas Eve, was the moment it all boiled over. I arrived with small gifts, homemade cookies Harold used to love, and a hope, a tiny one, that maybe we would sit together and remember him. Instead, Emily sneered at the cookies, called them old-fashioned, and complained I brought the wrong wine, as if generosity were a crime. Then she accused me of trying to make the night about my grief. Her family watched. Daniel said nothing, and soon the little remarks grew teeth. "Maybe you should go home, Martha. You're making everyone uncomfortable." Then came the push toward the door. Now here I was, coat barely zipped, clutching my handbag, staring at wood and wreaths and glitter, while inside, they sang carols. I felt my fingers tremble, not because of age, but because of betrayal. I had lost my husband, but somehow losing my son hurt more. I turned,
slowly walking toward the lobby. But halfway down the stairs, I paused, leaning against the railing because my legs wobbled. What they didn't know was that I didn't actually leave right away. I stood by that door for several minutes, listening. I heard Emily laughing, a triumphant kind of laugh. I heard Daniel saying nothing, a painful kind of silence. And I heard Guess whisper, "She really kicked her out? That poor woman! Did he just let his mother walk out?"
Humiliation burned hotter than the winter chill. But I wasn't going to cry. Not yet. Instead, I walked outside to the icy street, sat on the bench by the entrance, and waited. I wasn't waiting for someone to open the door. I was waiting for something else. Because Emily and Daniel had no clue that their decisions tonight were setting them up for a morning they would never forget. One that would haunt them far beyond Christmas lights and broken carols. But before that dawn came, there was a long night ahead. A night that would change everything. And as I pulled my coat tighter and watched snow begin to drift across the pavement, one thought repeated in my mind. How did my own child become someone who could throw me out in the cold? The answer was buried in months of neglect, manipulation, and small betrayals that grew into one monstrous truth. But that truth wouldn't stay buried much longer. Not after what happened next. I sat outside longer than I intended to, the cold digging deep into my knees and hands. Cars passed occasionally, lighting the snowflakes for a brief second before disappearing into the night. I wasn't sure if I was numb from the weather or from the shock. I thought Daniel might come after me. Surely he couldn't have just let his mother walk out into the dark on Christmas Eve. But the door never opened. No footsteps, no apology, not even a text. So I waited, perhaps out of denial, perhaps out of foolish hope, until the lobby lights flickered off, signaling the building was preparing to sleep.
That was when the reality settled in. I had nowhere to go. My home had been sold after Harold died. Daniel insisted, "It's too big for you, Mom. You'll be lonely. We'll move you closer to us." Closer, yes, but never welcome. He said I could stay with them until we found an apartment, but once I moved in, Emily began counting the days, the toothbrushes, the time I spent in the kitchen, the burden I supposedly brought. Within 2 months, Daniel suggested I give them space. So I rented a tiny room in a retirement boarding house across town. Nothing like my old home, but enough to say I wasn't dependent. Still, Christmas was supposed to be different. Family, warmth, togetherness. Yet, here I was, a 70-year-old woman outside my son's door wondering if I'd misjudged everything. The pain wasn't just emotional, it was physical. My fingertips burned, my joints stiffened. I stood, forcing myself to move, but dizziness washed over me. I gripped the building wall until the world steadied. The bus stop was 3 blocks away. I wasn't sure if buses still ran this late on Christmas Eve, but walking was my only option. Snowflakes tangled in my hair as I slowly made my way down the sidewalk, clutching my handbag like a lifeline. My boots weren't made for ice. Harold always reminded me to trade style for warmth. I wished I'd listened. Halfway down the street, a car pulled up beside me. The window rolled down, revealing a familiar face, Mrs. Henderson, the elderly neighbor from Daniel's building. "Martha, why on earth are you walking out here?" she gasped. "Oh, I just needed some air," I lied. She studied me with a gaze only older women possess, the kind that sees through excuses.
They kicked you out, didn't they? My throat tightened. The truth felt too sharp to say aloud. I nodded. Her lips pursed with indignation. Monsters, she muttered. Get in, I'll drive you home. I hesitated, pride still clinging, but she insisted. I slipped into her warm car, my bones sighing from relief. You always gave that boy too much, she said softly. Some children confuse love with entitlement. I didn't reply. There was nothing to say. Mrs. Henderson dropped me at the retirement house. Before I got out, she took my hand. Don't spend the night alone. Come tomorrow morning for tea. Her kindness nearly shattered me. Thank you, I whispered. Inside my tiny room, the silence felt crushing. I placed Daniel's Christmas gift, a photo frame with Harold's picture, on the nightstand and sat heavily on the bed. I tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, Emily's words echoed. You ruin everything.
Did I? Had I overstayed? Was grief too inconvenient for a family celebrating? The clock glowed 1:12 a.m. Rest wouldn't come. So I wrapped Harold's old scarf around me and decided something irrational, or maybe brave. I would go back. Not to beg, but to leave something they would find, a truth they couldn't ignore. I packed the framed photo and a handwritten letter I'd kept for Daniel, words I never had the courage to tell him. At 6 a.m., I returned. The building was silent. The lights still twinkled behind the thin curtains of Daniel's apartment. I reached into my pocket, trembling, and slid the envelope beneath their door, along with the photo frame, face down. But as I turned to leave, a wave of dizzy coldness hit me. My vision blurred, the hallway tilted. I tried to steady myself against the wall, but my knees buckled. The floor rushed toward me. I vaguely remember voices, gasps, footsteps, Emily screaming for someone to call an ambulance, then darkness. When I woke, I smelled antiseptic. A beeping sound marked each second. Warm blankets covered me. A nurse leaned over. You had severe hypothermia. You collapsed in your son's hallway. You're very lucky someone opened the door when they did. Lucky. The word tasted bitter. Moments later, Daniel rushed in, face pale. Mom, I didn't know. His voice cracked, but instead of relief, I felt something heavier, a grief that had changed shape. Emily hovered behind him, eyes wide, lips trembling. Not from compassion, from fear of consequences. The doctor explained how dangerous it had been, how long exposure could have been fatal, how someone my age shouldn't be alone in the cold. Emily's eyes darted anywhere but at me. Why did you come back so early? Daniel asked. The nurse interrupted before I could answer. She left you something, the envelope and photo frame. It was still on your floor. Daniel looked at Emily, and something shifted, something he couldn't unsee. He started reading my letter right there, silently, jaw tightening, tears forming. Emily whispered, "This isn't my fault." The doctor raised an eyebrow at her coldness. Even he could feel it. Daniel didn't respond. For the first time, I watched Emily shrink. Then I spoke, voice weak but steady. Daniel, love, it's not about blame. It's about truth. His chin quivered. I didn't know you went home alone. I didn't know Emily's voice cut in. She's manipulating you. She could have stayed. But Daniel turned, faced her fully. Emily, enough. She froze. And that was the moment. The first crack in their perfect Christmas illusion. But it wasn't the last. Because my letter revealed something neither of them expected. Something about Harold. Something about me. Something Daniel had forgotten, or maybe was never taught. And when he finished reading, his life, our lives, would never be the same. Daniel didn't speak at first. He just held the letter, eyes tracking each sentence over and over as if trying to rewrite the past on his own terms. Emily fidgeted near the doorway, arms crossed tight, waiting for Daniel to dismiss it all, to blame the cold, the hospital, my age, anything but her. The doctor left us alone, closing the curtain gently. The air between us swelled with unspoken things. Finally, Daniel inhaled shakily. You wrote that Dad used to sit outside your door when you cried after chemo. My breath hitched. He remembered only pieces of those years.
He was young, 14 when cancer chewed its way through me, 16 when I survived. I hid most of the ugliness from him, and Harold carried the weight. Yes, I whispered. He stayed with me every night. I didn't want you to see me weak. Daniel swallowed hard. You also wrote that he made me promise something before he died. Emily scoffed quietly. A promise? Don't be dramatic. Daniel shot her a look that silenced her instantly. He continued reading aloud, voice cracking on every other word. Take care of your mother, Dan. She's strong, but sometimes strong people fall the hardest. I closed my eyes. I could still hear Harold saying it, voice rough from morphine, fingers curled around our son's hand. Daniel folded the letter slowly, as if his hands didn't quite know how to obey him anymore. You failed me, he said. My heart twisted, not from accusation, but from the rawness in his voice. No, I said. You forgot. But forgetting isn't the same as failing. Emily's jaw clenched. Oh, please. She's manipulating you. She could have called a taxi. She wanted this reaction. Daniel's head turned sharply toward her, a tension I had never seen in him. Emily, she collapsed. She could have died. Emily blinked, stunned that her coldness was not being applauded. She shouldn't have come back, Emily hissed. She insists on inserting herself into everything. I felt the sting, but forced myself to look at Daniel instead. Emily is right about one thing, I whispered. I came back to give you that letter because I didn't know if I'd ever be brave enough to say those words out loud. He gripped the bed railing like it was the only solid ground.
I don't know how I let this happen, he murmured. I don't know how I let you stand outside my door alone. The truth was, he did know, but he wasn't ready to face it. The nurses checked my vitals, whispering between themselves, shooting Emily occasional glances, the kind that say, "We see you." Emily retreated to the corner, silent for once. When visiting hours ended, Daniel refused to leave. He stayed by the bed, head bowed, one hand curled around mine. Emily walked out without saying goodbye. The doctor suggested I stay overnight for monitoring. Daniel nodded instantly. He was afraid, finally, of losing me. The night was long. Machines hummed, the room dimmed. Daniel dozed in the chair, but jerked awake every time I shifted. At dawn, sunlight crept through the blinds, warm and unforgiving. Emily didn't return. Instead, Daniel spoke first. I didn't see it clearly before, but last night, when you collapsed, when I saw that photo frame, his voice broke. That picture of Dad smiling with his arm around you, it hit me. You two built everything I have. I just let someone take it away. I squeezed his hand weakly. You didn't lose me. Not yet.
He exhaled, forehead pressed against my fingers. But you could have. And it was my fault. His self-blame wasn't what I wanted. I wanted awareness.
You loved Emily, I whispered. You wanted peace. But peace built on silence never lasts. He nodded slowly, tears gathering. I need to make things right. 2 hours later, Emily stormed into the room, her coat still on, cheeks flushed with irritation more than worry. We need to talk, she announced, ignoring the doctor mid-sentence. Daniel stood, placing himself between her and my bed. No, he said quietly, I need to talk. You need to listen. Emily blinked. She wasn't used to Daniel taking a stance against her. What happened last night, he continued, voice tight, was cruel, unacceptable, and you will apologize to my mother. Emily's expression twisted, disbelief to outrage. Apologize? For what? She nearly froze outside our building. You humiliated her. You kicked her out because you don't like sharing attention. Emily scoffed. This is ridiculous. You choose her over me? I'm your wife. Yes, and she is my mother, the woman who raised me. You had no right. Emily stepped closer, lowering her voice. She's manipulating you. Open your eyes. She wants control. Daniel shook his head. No, Emily, you want control, and last night proved it. Emily's mouth opened, but no words came. Silence wrapped around us, thick, suffocating. Finally, she spat out, "This is unbelievable," and stormed out. The doctor returned, eyebrows raised.
Complicated family dynamics, he muttered. Daniel apologized for the scene, but the doctor simply waved it off. Seen worse, he said, but I hope she realizes a near-death incident isn't something to dismiss. When Emily didn't return within the hour, Daniel's shoulders slumped. I don't know if our marriage will survive this, he admitted. I looked at him, my boy, my flawed, loving, easily influenced boy, and wished I could carry his pain like I once did. That is between you and her, I whispered. But it starts with respect. If she cannot respect your mother, she cannot respect you. He nodded, slowly understanding a truth he had never confronted. Later that afternoon, they prepared to discharge me. Daniel bundled my coat around me like I was made of glass. The nurse touched my shoulder gently. You have someone picking you up? Yes, Daniel answered. She's coming with me. The nurse smiled kindly, unaware of the turmoil beneath the surface. As we left the hospital, Daniel held my arm all the way to the car, a gesture I hadn't felt since I was recovering from chemo decades ago. We drove in silence. But when we pulled up to his apartment building, he didn't move. He stared forward, jaw clenched. Mom, whatever is waiting inside, we face it together. He didn't know how right he was, because Emily wasn't alone anymore. Her parents were there. Suitcases stacked by the door. And the moment we stepped inside, everything, Christmas, loyalty, marriage, motherhood, ignited into something none of us were prepared for. The apartment was eerily quiet when we stepped inside. Too quiet for a home that had been bursting with laughter just hours earlier. No twinkling lights, no music. Even the scent of roasted turkey had faded, replaced by something colder, resentment. Emily stood near the dining table, arms folded tightly. Beside her sat her parents, Margaret and Philip, their suitcases positioned like barricades. Margaret was the first to speak, her tone clipped and ice-laced. Well, this is uncomfortable, but necessary.
Daniel stiffened. "Mom just got out of the hospital," he warned. "Choose your words carefully." Margaret's eyes flicked over me, dismissive, annoyed. "Emily informed us of the situation. We're here to support her." I held Daniel's arm lightly, but inside, my heart braced itself. Support her? For what? Attempting to freeze his mother to death on Christmas Eve? Philip cleared his throat, adopting a diplomatic posture. "Let's be adults, Martha. I'm sure you understand." Daniel cut him off. "She was thrown out into freezing weather on Christmas Eve, nearly died. Do not begin this with 'let's be adults.'" Philip shifted uncomfortably. Emily shrank back, eyes darting between her parents and Daniel. Then Margaret rose, the movement sharp. "You've always enabled her," she snapped at Daniel. "Your mother is constantly inserting herself into your lives. Emily has been under stress because of her."
My breath caught. Stress? For existing? Daniel's voice was low, dangerous. "My mother was grieving her husband. She moved out when you pressured her to. She barely visited." Margaret scoffed. "The hospital guilt trip was dramatic. She could have died, Margaret." Daniel's roar stunned even me. Philip raised a hand, placating. "Emily told us you were exaggerating what happened. She said Martha left willingly." Daniel's gaze snapped to Emily. "Is that what you told them?" Emily swallowed but didn't deny it. "I didn't want them thinking I threw your mother out," she muttered. "But you did," Daniel hissed. Margaret stepped between them. "You are married now, Daniel. Marriage requires boundaries. A mother must let go." Her words sliced through me, but something inside me hardened. I stepped forward, voice barely above a whisper, but sharp enough to hold them. "Letting go is not the same as being discarded." They all turned. I continued. "I sold my home because Daniel said he would take care of me. I supported their marriage. I stepped back, but boundaries were twisted into barriers." Margaret scoffed. "You're twisting things to make yourself the injured saint." Daniel stepped in front of me, for the first time shielding me. "She isn't twisting anything. You are." Emily's voice finally cracked. "I didn't mean for her to collapse. I just wanted a Christmas without drama." Daniel stared at her in disbelief. "You threw an elderly woman out in sub-zero temperatures because you didn't want her sadness near your party?" Emily looked at her parents for validation, but even Margaret's stern expression flickered. Daniel moved away from her, picking up the photo frame I had left, Harold smiling between us. "You have never once asked about my father," Daniel said quietly to Emily. "Never once tried to understand what his loss meant to my mom or to me." Emily looked cornered. "I didn't want everything to always be about him." "It wasn't about him," Daniel whispered. "It was about compassion." Silence. Margaret finally spoke, slower now. "What exactly do you want, Daniel?" Daniel exhaled. "Respect. For my mother." Philip leaned forward. "And if Emily apologizes?" Daniel shook his head. "The apology must mean something, and there has to be change." Emily's eyes widened. "You're choosing her over me." Daniel looked exhausted. "I'm choosing what's right." The words landed like stones. Margaret bristled. "So you want Emily out?" Daniel paused, but not long. "No, I want us out." Emily's mouth dropped. "What?" Daniel turned to me. "Pack whatever you need, Mom. We're leaving."
The room spun with shock. Even I felt stunned. "Daniel!" "No," he murmured, holding my hands. "You don't belong where you aren't safe or valued." Emily stumbled forward. "You're abandoning me?" Daniel looked at her with a kind of sorrow I hadn't seen before. "I'm giving you space. Maybe you'll reflect." Emily's voice cracked into panic. "You're leaving me alone for Christmas?" Her parents stared, wordless. She reached toward Daniel, but he stepped back. "I need distance, Emily. Not divorce, but clarity." Emily burst into tears, but for the first time, Daniel didn't cave. He helped me gather my things, my scarf, my handbag, the frame of Harold. On the way out, Margaret said sharply, "She's manipulating you. You'll regret this." Daniel didn't turn. "No, what I regret is letting it get this far." The apartment door closed behind us, not with rage, but with finality. Outside in the parking lot, Daniel stopped. His hand shook. "That was harder than I thought," he whispered. I wrapped my arms around him, small though they were. "You grew up today," I said softly. We drove to my little retirement room, awkwardly small for a mother and grown son to share, but warm. Daniel insisted on staying. He slept on the worn-out armchair. I lay awake watching him breathe, the boy I raised, now a man confronting the truth he had avoided. He woke at dawn, looked at me and whispered, "I'm sorry I didn't stand up sooner." I stroked his hair like he was 5 again. We all wake up at different times. His phone buzzed then. Emily's name lit up. He silenced it. But fate wasn't finished with us, because Christmas morning had one more revelation, one that shifted everything again. Something Emily hadn't told her parents, something even Daniel didn't know. When we opened the door to leave for breakfast, someone stood outside crying, luggage by her feet, and what she confessed next changed the direction of everything. "Your mom is going to ruin our Christmas," Jenna's voice echoed in my head long after she slammed the door on me that night. But what she didn't know was that Christmas had a way of exposing truth. The next morning, the snow had settled, quiet and heavy. I sat in my apartment, my backup home I never told anyone about, not because I was homeless, but because sometimes peace is worth paying for. I wasn't poor, I wasn't abandoned, and I certainly wasn't the burden she painted me to be. I simply stepped back so they could live their life. But that night shattered something. It wasn't just disrespect, it was arrogance. So while Jenna believed she had kicked out an old nuisance, she unknowingly lit a fuse. Around noon, Daniel called. "Mom, are you okay?" His voice was softer than usual, guilt already creeping in. "I'm fine," I told him. "Enjoy Christmas with your family." "Mom, please don't say it like that." "I'm saying it exactly how it is. Jenna made herself very clear." Before he could reply, the door buzzed. Odd, I wasn't expecting anyone. "I have to go," I said, hanging up. When I opened the door, 2 people greeted me, my property manager and a contractor. "Ready for the walkthrough, Miss Eleanor?" "Ah, yes, my Christmas project." "Of course," I smiled, stepping aside so they could enter. For months, I had been renovating something nobody in my family knew about. Because unlike Jenna, I didn't announce my wealth or intentions. I acted quietly. We walked through the polished marble floors, chandeliers wrapped in velvet protective coverings, and custom-built cabinetry. "Everything will be fully staged by the 23rd, the manager said. Perfect, just in time. A few hours later, Daniel called again. "Mom, Jenna told me what happened," he said. "I didn't know she spoke to you that way." "Oh, Daniel,
You did know. You just didn't hear it. Silence. Sometimes silence answers more than words. 2 days passed. Not a call from Jenna, but I wasn't waiting. On Christmas Eve morning, Daniel arrived at my apartment alone. He looked nervous. "Mom, can we talk?" I let him in. He sat there, head low. "I should have stopped her. You shouldn't have been treated like that." "I don't need an apology," I told him. "I need respect." "I know," he nodded. "Jenna is tense. The holiday stresses her." "Stress does not justify cruelty." He sighed. Then came the question he was really there for. "Are you still coming to Christmas dinner?"
I smiled. "No, dear. This year, Christmas comes to me." His eyebrows knitted. "What does that mean?" "You'll see." That evening, I got dressed, not in grief, but in dignity. Emerald velvet, hair pinned, pearls kissed my neck. A woman they thought was powerless walked out with her crown. I arrived at their house at 7 p.m., not with gifts, but with a phone call waiting. My granddaughter greeted me first, little arms thrown around my waist. "Grandma, you came." Jenna's smile was tight. "Mrs. Eleanor." The room shifted. The tension was air-thin. "Good evening," I told her. "Don't worry, I won't ruin your Christmas." Her cheeks flushed. Dinner was quiet, but every glare, every whispered comment, every side-eye spoke volumes. Jenna could not stand the idea that I was still here. "You really shouldn't have come," she whispered as she passed the potatoes. "And you really shouldn't have spoken to me the way you did," I whispered back. Her eyes widened. I didn't raise my voice, but the warning was there. After dinner, Daniel stood. "Everyone, before we open gifts, Mom has an announcement." Jenna scoffed under her breath. I didn't stand dramatically. I simply reached for my coat. "Actually," I said, "the announcement isn't here." Everyone froze. "What?" Daniel asked. "If you want your Christmas surprise, follow me." Confusion filled the room, but curiosity was stronger. We drove in separate cars. Jenna muttered the whole way. "This is ridiculous. What is she trying to prove?" When we arrived, lights illuminated the snowfall. A towering gate opened as sensors detected my car. The sign above read, "Eleanor Haven Children's Center." Jenna's jaw dropped. Daniel looked at me bewildered. "Mom, what is this?" "This," I said, "is where the inheritance you hoped I didn't have went." I guided them inside. Staff members greeted me. "Mrs. Eleanor, Merry Christmas." Little children, orphans, foster kids, abandoned youths came running. "Grandma Eleanor!" Jenna stared. "I thought you were just an old woman with no place to go," I finished. I walked them through marble halls more luxurious than her house. Each room filled with beds, warmth, learning spaces, holiday decorations, and hope. "You see," I continued, "while you worried about me staying under your roof for Christmas, I was building a place for people who actually need one." Daniel swallowed hard. "Mom, this is incredible." "But there's more." We entered the main hall where a stage was set. "This center," I explained, "officially opens tonight, and Daniel, you will be chairman, if you choose to accept." His eyes widened. "Me?" "Yes. Because while your wife fears your mother being burdensome, I know you can be more." Jenna looked pale. "And Jenna," I added. She straightened, expecting a triumphant roll. "You will not be involved until you learn humility." Gasps from nearby staff rippled. Jenna stammered, "You can't exclude me." I just did. Daniel, say something. Daniel looked at her, then at me. His voice shook. Mom, I accept. And Jenna's mouth fell open. That wasn't the end. I turned to the children surrounding me. Tonight is about love, not ego. Let's begin. The lights dimmed, music started, gifts were handed out. Daniel was speechless, watching his mother being adored, not rejected. Later, when the event calmed, Jenna approached me in a corner. You embarrassed me. No, you embarrassed yourself the night you threw me out. She clenched her fists. What do you want from me? I want nothing, I said softly. But your daughter will learn to treat people differently because she sees how her grandmother lives. I stepped away.
Respect is earned, not demanded. She had no reply. Daniel hugged me tightly before leaving. I didn't know, Mom. I never needed you to know. I just needed you to understand. Behind him, Jenna lingered, silent, smaller. And for the first time, she didn't have anything cruel to say. Little did she know, Christmas had only begun. Christmas night at the center wasn't just festive, it was transformative. Children whose lives had known loss, disappointment, and neglect were holding wrapped gifts tighter than some adults held their pride. Their eyes sparkled in ways money could never manufacture. Jenna saw all of it, the laughter, the hugs, the gratitude, but she didn't know where to stand. People greeted me with warmth, thanked me, leaned on me, yet barely acknowledged her. It wasn't intentional cruelty. It was just a mirror she finally had to face. Daniel stood beside me, watching it unfold. "I've never seen you like this," he whispered. "You never looked," I replied gently. He pressed his lips together, guilt carving lines across his face. "You built this entire place without telling anyone?" "I built this because I've known what it feels like to be unwanted, Daniel. When your father passed, I learned quickly how invisible an older widow can become. I didn't want others to feel that." His voice cracked. "Mom, I'm sorry." I squeezed his hand. Not forgiveness yet, but acknowledgement. Tonight isn't about apologies. It's about beginnings. Jenna approached slowly, holding our granddaughter's coat. "We're going home," she muttered.
Daniel blinked. "Already?" "It's late. She's tired," Jenna insisted. But it wasn't about the child. It was her. She couldn't stand being somewhere she wasn't the center. Before Daniel could answer, our granddaughter tugged his hand. "Daddy, I don't want to go. I want to stay with Grandma." Jenna flinched. Daniel looked at her. "She wants to stay." "You can stay," I said calmly. "Jenna shouldn't drive upset." Her jaw tightened. "I'm fine." "No," I replied calmly, "you're not." The honesty hit harder than the softness. She opened her mouth to snap back, but nothing came out. Daniel said gently, "You go home. I'll bring her later." Jenna stormed toward the exit, but halfway she stopped. The doors ahead led into cold darkness. Behind her, warm light and laughter filled the air. For the first time that night, I saw hesitation in her shoulders. She almost turned back. Almost. The doors closed behind her. Daniel exhaled. "She's never seen you strong like this." She's only seen the version she chose to believe, I said. We watched the children unwrap toys and squeal over candy canes. My granddaughter nestled into my side, head on my shoulder. "Grandma," she said sleepily, "I want to live here." Daniel laughed softly, but there was truth inside her innocent words. A volunteer approached. "We'd love if you gave the closing message." I nodded.
Older women telling her story. Daniel helped me onto the small stage. The room hushed. Love, I began, isn't measured by gifts or appearances. It is measured by presence. Tonight, you all showed up, and that is the greatest gift. Tiny hands clapped, staff wiped tears. Daniel looked at me as if seeing his mother for the first time. After the celebration, the center quieted. Daniel helped load leftover food into storage. "Mom," he said, "can we talk about something privately?" We walked into the office. "I need you to know something," he started. "I didn't stop Jenna because I thought you could handle it. You always have. You're strong, confident, independent. But I forgot you're human, too." "You didn't forget," I replied softly. "You just assumed strength meant invulnerability." He nodded slowly. "I did. I don't blame you. But I cannot tolerate disrespect, not even from your wife." He took a deep breath. "What do you want me to do?" "Nothing yet. Change happens when it's realized, not forced." We sat in silence. "Mom," he whispered after a moment, "I want to learn how to run this place." "I'll teach you," I promised. Later that night, Daniel took his daughter home. The staff lingered cleaning, humming Christmas tunes. I remained, walking through the halls, the polished flooring reflecting twinkling lights like stars on water. And then, unexpectedly, the entrance doors opened again. Jenna stepped inside. Her eyes were red, makeup smudged, but pride still clung like brittle armor. "I shouldn't have left," she murmured. I didn't answer immediately. She stood there awkwardly.
Your husband and daughter are gone, I told her. I know, she whispered. That's why I came back. She wasn't looking for them. She was looking for something she never thought she needed. We walked slowly through the lobby. You built this with your own money, she said quietly. Yes. No investors? No donors? No. Just purpose. Why didn't you tell anyone? Some things begin as seeds. They grow best in silence. She swallowed. I judged you, she said. I thought you were beneath us. Why? I don't know. Maybe because you never bragged or fought for attention or demanded anything. I mistook that for weakness. That is your lesson, I said, not unkindly. She looked around the center. I felt threatened, she admitted. Oh? Yes. You always had Daniel's loyalty. And now, seeing this place, you have everyone else's too. I looked at her carefully. You mistake respect for rivalry. I don't need to compete with you. She nearly broke at those words. I don't know how to be like you. You shouldn't be. You should be better than the woman who threw me out at 10 p.m. That pierced straight through her. She finally exhaled, shoulders collapsing. I'm sorry. The words were raw, not polished or dramatic, just truth. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said quickly, just acknowledging. That, I told her, is the first respectful thing you've said to me. Her eyes glistened. Can I do something? For the center? Not yet. Prove you understand humility first. She nodded slowly. This time, she didn't argue. She accepted it. I walked her to the exit. Merry Christmas, she whispered before leaving. Merry Christmas, Jenna. As she disappeared into the snow, I smiled, not because I'd won, but because Christmas had cracked something open that arrogance couldn't seal. But neither she nor Daniel knew that tomorrow would reveal something even bigger, something that would reshape our family forever. Daniel called me early the next morning. His voice held an urgency that made my heart clench. Mom, you need to come over, now. For a second, panic surged. Had they and Jenna fought? Had something happened to my granddaughter? I'm on my way, I told him. Snow dusted the streets like powdered sugar over broken pavement. When I arrived, Daniel opened the door before I could knock. He looked shaken, eyes wide, face pale. Come in. The living room was quiet. Jenna sat on the sofa holding a crumpled tissue. The Christmas tree lights blinked behind her, mockingly bright.
My granddaughter ran into my arms first. "Grandma, Daniel found something. Come see." Daniel motioned toward his office. Jenna didn't look up. We stepped inside. A box sat on the desk, one I hadn't seen in years. Daniel lifted out a folder. "Mom, the center's records, donations, receipts, payrolls, all your personal bank statements. Why are these here?" I froze. Those documents were stored in a locked cabinet at the center. "I didn't move them," I whispered. Daniel swallowed. "Jenna did." I stared at him. He continued, voice low. "She came home last night and searched, trying to understand you. She didn't trust what she saw. She still thought you were hiding something." His voice cracked. "But instead, she found proof of everything you built, quietly, alone." Tears welled in Jenna's eyes. She finally looked at me. "I wanted to know how a woman I dismissed became someone people looked at like a savior." She closed her eyes. "I didn't know you invested everything you had into that place. Your pension, your house sale, your savings, every cent." Daniel looked horrified. "Mom, you never told me." "I didn't want anyone to treat me differently. I wasn't looking for validation. I just wanted purpose." Jenna stood, trembling. "You gave others what I denied you: respect, warmth, a seat at the table."
I didn't move, she continued. I thought Christmas was about appearances, matching pajamas, perfect meals, Instagram moments. But you gave strangers what I couldn't even give family. Silence flooded the room. Daniel rubbed his face. We owe you an apology. A real one. You owe yourselves reflection, I replied. I don't want pity. I want change. Jenna nodded. Then teach me. I raised an eyebrow. Teach you humility? Compassion? You don't learn that in one conversation. I know, she whispered. But I want to start. Daniel took my hand. Mom, will you spend Christmas morning with us? I looked toward the hallway. My granddaughter peeked around the corner, hopeful eyes shining. Yes, I said.
Her little body launched into mine. "Grandma, Santa ate the cookies. Come see." We walked to the kitchen. Stockings hung along the wall. Wrapping paper littered the floor. The smell of pancakes warmed the air. Eggshells cracked, batter flipped, laughter echoed. Things that once felt like distant memories. Daniel plated breakfast, watching me with an expression I hadn't seen since he was a boy. Adoring. Jenna sat beside me quietly, hands wrapped around a mug. After we ate, she spoke. "Tonight, can you show me the center again?" "Why?" "Because I want to help. Not to prove anything, but to be someone better."
I studied her. She wasn't performing. Something in her truly shifted. "We'll see," I answered. Throughout the day, Daniel never left my side. He kept studying me, as though recalibrating every assumption he'd ever made. By evening, we stood outside the center again, Jenna on one side of me, Daniel on the other. Inside, volunteers cleaned, lights sparkled, children's drawings lined the walls. Jenna looked around differently this time, with reverence rather than suspicion. "Where do I start?" she asked. "With listening," I said. Daniel helped the staff member rearrange boxes. My granddaughter dragged crayons to a table. Jenna followed me to the donation room. "I want to be honest," she said. "I don't know who I am if I'm not in control." "That," I replied, "is the prison you built for yourself." She blinked. "I was wrong about you." "And you will be wrong again," I said. "The question is, will you stay open enough to learn?" She nodded slowly. We sorted clothes. She folded awkwardly, hands uncertain, movement stiff. "That's fine," I said. "You don't need perfection, just sincerity." For the first time ever, she smiled. Not the polished hostess smile, but something fragile, unguarded. Hours passed. When we finally returned home, Daniel embraced me on the porch. "Mom, thank you for giving her another chance, for giving me one too. This wasn't for you. It was for your daughter. She deserves a family that isn't fractured." Christmas night settled in again. Snow glittered under the street lamps. Jenna paused at the doorway. "Martha, if you ever need a place to stay, my home will always be open." I held her gaze. "Remember that." Because she didn't know, no one did, that a storm far worse was approaching. And it wasn't the snow. It was the reckoning. A truth about my life, my late husband, my son, that would split us open again before dawn. Part 8. The night was still. The snow outside drifted silently, blanketing the streets. But inside, my mind churned faster than any storm. Daniel and Jenna had retreated to their room, exhausted, leaving me alone in the living room with only the fading glow of the Christmas tree lights. I sat in the armchair, letting my fingers trace the frame of Harold's picture. My husband's smile, forever frozen, seemed to mock the chaos of the past 24 hours. I had survived the cold, the humiliation, the hospital stay, but nothing could have prepared me for what was coming. It started with a knock, sharp, deliberate, echoing in the empty hallway. My pulse quickened. I opened the door. There, standing in the dim light, was a figure I hadn't expected. Daniel's estranged aunt, Claire. She had always harbored resentment toward me, small jabs disguised as concern, snide remarks masked as advice. But tonight, she didn't hide her anger. "Martha," she said, voice tight,
I heard about last night. You've gone too far this time." I stepped aside, letting her in. "Claire, it's been a long time. What brings you here on Christmas Eve?" She didn't answer. Her eyes scanned the room, landing on Harold's picture, then on me. The tension thickened, suffocating. "You've been meddling," she finally said. "Using Daniel's emotions, your granddaughter, your little center. It's manipulative. You think you're teaching lessons, but you're poisoning everyone."
I let her words hang. My lips curved into a thin smile. "Claire, you always had a way with words. But manipulation? That's a strong accusation." "Strong but true," she snapped. "You've controlled this family for decades, Martha. Harold's death, Daniel's loyalty. You've used grief to trap people into your world. And now this center, this monument to yourself." I leaned back, calm. "I created the center because children deserve love, Claire, something you clearly don't understand." Her face twisted in rage. "You think you're untouchable. You think your son will always defend you, but tonight changes everything." She pulled a folder from her coat. I recognized it immediately. It was my old will, the original copy Harold and I had drafted years ago, detailing the distribution of assets, the center, everything. "You plan everything, don't you?" Claire hissed. "You make sure you leave behind this legacy, forcing Daniel to choose you over his wife. You've been scheming." I kept my voice steady, measured. "Claire, everything Harold and I built, everything I manage, is for good, not schemes." She slammed the folder on the table, paper scattered. "Do you think Daniel will still follow you when he sees this? When he realizes the truth about your control? When he reads that some of the funds, some of the inheritance was meant to keep him tied to you?" I froze, heart pounding, not from fear, but from calculation. She didn't know the half of it. "I've never hidden anything from Daniel," I said slowly, standing to face her. "Everything I do is transparent to him. Everything he needs to know, he knows. The rest is none of your concern." Claire's hands trembled. "You're a liar, a master manipulator. You think you can bend people to your will by being kind to strangers. You think that makes you moral." I took a step closer. "Claire, morality isn't bending people. Morality is acting when no one else will. I acted when you were absent, when Harold was gone, when Daniel's eyes were closed to the truth. That is what morality looks like." She laughed, low, bitter, almost hysterical. "You're twisting words to justify your obsession." I shook my head. "No, I am simply living in a way that honors those who cannot defend themselves."
Her eyes darted to the center's folder again. "If Daniel reads this, he'll know you're controlling him, controlling the family. You've always been the villain, Martha, and tonight you'll see your plans crumble." I leaned in, close enough for her to feel the calmness radiating off me. "Claire, I've spent decades loving, protecting, and raising. And you, what have you spent your life doing? Guarding grudges? Spreading doubt? You see this as a fight, but it's simply reality catching up with you." For a moment, her rage faltered. Then she stormed out, leaving the folder behind, papers still scattered. I picked up the will slowly, feeling the weight of decades in my hands. Harold had trusted me completely, and Daniel's trust was mine to protect. I would not let anyone, not Claire, not Jenna, not anyone, weaponize that trust against the children, against our family. The next morning, I knew, would be decisive. Daniel knocked softly before entering. "Mom, I heard Claire came last night. Are you okay?" "I am," I said,
brushing off my coat. But now, Daniel, you need to understand something fully. He sat beside me, curiosity and dread in equal measure. Your father, he wanted one thing above all, that you and I and everyone in this family live with integrity. He knew there would be people who tried to manipulate you, twist your perception, or make you doubt me. And he trusted me to be your guide. Daniel's eyes widened. But Claire, she is blinded by jealousy, Daniel. She cannot see the bigger picture. And neither can anyone else who judges me by fear, by assumptions. I stood, placing Harold's photo gently on the table. I want you to read the center's ledgers, the donations, the fund allocations, everything. See it not as control, but as love. I never acted for recognition. I acted for purpose. He took the folder, leafing through pages with a trembling hand. Each number, each allocation confirmed what he suspected but hadn't dared to believe. My motives had been pure. Tears filled his eyes. Mom, I didn't understand. I thought you owed her more than you owed your family. You thought protecting me was selfish. But Daniel, protecting family is never selfish. We sat in silence, the weight of truth settling around us. Later, Jenna arrived, cautiously this time. Her eyes searched mine, filled with unease. I saw the ledgers, she said, voice trembling. I didn't know. I misjudged you. I studied her. Do you understand why you were wrong? Yes, she whispered. I judged out of fear, not understanding, and I acted cruelly. Daniel stepped forward, holding her hands. Mom has always acted out of love, Jenna. Now we can choose to rebuild together. Tears streamed down her face. I will try. I promise. No more arrogance, no more demands. I need guidance. I nodded. Then we start today, not with blame, but with honesty. We spent the day clearing the center's archives, checking ledgers, and preparing for the new year. Jenna listened, asked questions, helped children with small tasks. Slowly, I saw her transform from someone who sought control into someone learning compassion. By nightfall, the children gathered for a final Christmas celebration. The tree shimmered, the gifts had been distributed, and laughter echoed through the halls. Daniel approached me. Mom, you gave them hope. You gave me clarity. You gave everyone a lesson I will never forget. I smiled softly. And you'll carry it forward, Daniel. That's all I ever wanted. Jenna stood nearby, hands folded, eyes humble. Thank you, she said quietly, for everything. I don't deserve it yet, but I will learn. Daniel guided her toward the children. Then start by helping them. That's the first lesson. I watched them, feeling the warmth of purpose and the quiet triumph of truth. I realized then that Christmas had not been ruined, it had been reforged. It wasn't about perfection, presents, or appearances. It was about standing firm, demanding respect, and allowing others to see the value of integrity, humility, and love. I looked at the children around me, then at Daniel, then at Jenna. I saw potential for growth, for redemption, for real family. And for the first time in months, I felt peace. Because in that cold December night, after betrayal, exclusion, and near tragedy, the truth had emerged victorious.
and those who tried to manipulate it had no choice but to witness it. I leaned back in the armchair, watching the last flickers of tree light. My granddaughter climbed into my lap, head resting against my shoulder.
"Grandma," she whispered, "is this the best Christmas ever?" "Yes, darling," I whispered back, hugging her tightly. Because sometimes the best Christmases come after the hardest nights. Outside, the snow continued to fall, soft and forgiving. Inside, hearts were warmed, not by gifts, but by courage, honesty, and the unyielding strength of a mother who refused to be silenced. And as Daniel whispered, "Thank you, Mom, for everything," I realized the greatest gift wasn't under the tree. It had been here all along. The family we built, the respect we demanded, and the love we refused to let die. Christmas had survived. Not ruined, not destroyed. Reborn. And that was a legacy no one could take away. He was young, 14 when cancer chewed its way through me, 16 when I survived. I hid most of the ugliness from him, and Harold carried the weight. "Yes," I whispered. "He stayed with me every night. I didn't want you to see me weak." Daniel swallowed hard. "You also wrote that he made me promise something before he died." Emily scoffed quietly. "A promise? Don't be dramatic." Daniel shot her a look that silenced her instantly. He continued reading aloud, voice cracking on every other word. "Take care of your mother, Dan. She's strong, but sometimes strong people fall the hardest." I closed my eyes. I could still hear Harold saying it, voice rough from morphine, fingers curled around our son's hand. Daniel folded the letter slowly, as if his hands didn't quite know how to obey him anymore. "You failed me," he said. My heart twisted, not from accusation, but from the rawness in his voice. "No," I said. "You forgot. But forgetting isn't the same as failing." Emily's jaw clenched. "Oh, please. She's manipulating you. She could have called a taxi. She wanted this reaction." Daniel's head turned sharply toward her, a tension I had never seen in him. "Emily, she collapsed. She could have died." Emily blinked, stunned that her coldness was not being applauded. "She shouldn't have come back," Emily hissed. "She insists on inserting herself into everything." I felt the sting, but forced myself to look at Daniel instead. "Emily is right about one thing," I whispered. "I came back to give you that letter because I didn't know if I'd ever be brave enough to say those words out loud." He gripped the bed railing like it was the only solid ground.